Hi, glad to see you in a new story. I'm curious what would have happened if Kurama had been a girl. How would that have affected the plot? Just imagine how Kurama cares for little Naruto, protecting him. He's like a parent to him. And of course, how much stronger Naruto would have become if he'd started interacting with Kurama when he was still very young. The first lesson Naruto Uzumaki learned from the village was that hunger made people invisible. If he stood in the market with coins clenched in his fist, shopkeepers suddenly found shelves to inspect and neighbors to greet. If he climbed onto a stool to reach the counter, someone's elbow nudged him down. When he asked why the milk smelled sour, the grocer's hand closed around his wrist, hard enough to bruise, and shoved the carton into his bag as though the boy had stolen the question itself. He was 3 years old, too small to understand the shape of hatred, but old enough to understand patterns. Doors closed when he approached. Conversations lowered. Faces changed when they looked at him, the way a sky changed before rain. On the night everything began, he came home from the market with a split lip and a paper bag, hugged to his chest. The apartment smelled of dust, old wood, and the faint sourness of neglected plumbing. Rain slid down the window in thin lines, blurring the carved faces of the Hokage monument beyond the rooftops. Naruto climbed onto a chair, set the bag on the table, and unpacked his dinner. A bruised apple, instant noodles, and milk that would curdle by morning. He stared at the carton for a long while, then pushed it away. The bruise on his wrist had turned purple. He did not cry loudly. Loud crying brought knocks on the wall and curses from the old woman next door. Instead, he crawled into bed with the apple pressed against his stomach and tried to sleep before hunger could get larger than the room. Sleep took him somewhere else. He woke standing ankle-deep in cold water. Pipes crossed the ceiling in the dark like iron ribs. A red light pulsed at the end of a flooded corridor, and behind a gate large enough to crush a house, something breathed. The breath rolled through the water and stirred his hair. Naruto should have run. He knew that. Every part of his small body understood danger, yet the thing behind the bars did not move to strike. It watched him with one enormous crimson eye, and in that eye, he saw fury so old it had become tired. "You are smaller than I expected," the fox said. The voice shook the water. Naruto fell backward with a splash, clutching the apple. It had followed him into the dream. The fox lowered its head. 9 tails shifted behind it, like banners in a storm. But the gate held. A paper seal hung at the center, bright even in the red gloom. The fox's muzzle wrinkled as it looked at the boy, then at the apple. Naruto did not know whether monsters cared about apples. He held it out because it was the only offering he had. The fox stared. A low sound rose from its chest. Not quite laughter, and not quite pain. "Keep it, kid. I have been fed worse things than hunger." That was the beginning. At first, the fox was only a voice in sleep. It mocked him when he tripped over his own feet. It snarled when he came home with spoiled food. It asked questions no adult had ever asked him. Who watched him? Which shinobi lingered too long on the roof across the street? Naruto answered as best he could. He learned quickly that the fox disliked lies, disliked self-pity even more, and hated the village with a precision that frightened him. Its name was Kurama. It told him, after 3 months of visits, when Naruto finally gathered enough courage to ask whether Fox was rude. "Very," Kurama said. "You may use it only when I deserve it." Naruto accepted this as law. Children built families from repetition before they understood the word for family. Kurama was there when the apartment went cold in winter, and when summer heat turned the rooms stale. Kurama reminded him to boil water. Kurama taught him how to tell whether rice had gone bad. Kurama instructed him to hide the best coupons under a loose floorboard, because children with no protectors learn to protect scraps. When he was 4, the dreams changed. Naruto woke one evening to find red light moving across the wall. He sat upright, heart hammering, and watched a figure gather itself beside the window. It began as smoke, then thread, then flesh-colored illusion, wrapped in chakra dense enough to make the floorboards creak. A woman stood there when the light faded. She had long, crimson hair, sharper than firelight, and eyes the color of Kurama's. Soft ears, furred and alert, rose through her hair. Behind her, 9 translucent tails coiled and vanished, as if the room could not decide whether to allow them. Naruto gripped his blanket. Kurama? The woman looked down at her hands with open disgust. This form is inefficient. You're tall, he whispered. I am compressed. He accepted that too. The body was not truly flesh. Kurama explained this later, once he could understand more than wonder. She had found a seam in the seal, not a weakness large enough to escape through, but enough to push a controlled amount of chakra outward. The avatar could exist only near him, fed by the slow leak of energy his young coils could tolerate. To a sensor glancing from a distance, it would seem like the unstable flicker expected from a Jinchuriki. To anyone who entered the apartment, Kurama could fold the projection back into a shadow before the door opened. People will fear what they cannot own, she told him, so we will give them nothing to measure. Naruto did not understand politics, but he understood hiding sweets from bigger children. The lesson was close enough. Kurama began with letters. Not because she loved books, she said, but because ignorance was a leash. And she had seen enough leashes for 10 lifetimes. She dragged old newspapers from the trash, made him smooth the pages flat, and pointed at characters until he could recognize the difference between a law, an announcement, and propaganda. His small fingers traced words by candlelight, while her red hair spilled over one shoulder and her ears twitched at noises outside. She taught him numbers with ration slips and mission pay charts. She taught him anatomy by making him name bones after every scuffle at the playground. She taught him chakra by having him sit on the floor with a cup of water between his knees, breathing until the surface trembled. When Naruto grew impatient, Kurama flicked his forehead hard enough to leave a mark. Power is not a tantrum. Power is a door. You open it, you close it, and you decide who crosses. By 5, he could read academy primers 3 years above his age. By 5, he could sense the difference between his own chakra, bright and restless, and Kurama's, vast and hot, beneath the seal. By 5, he had stopped asking why the village hated him. He asked better questions now. Who had told them to hate him? Who benefited when a child had no allies? Who watched the orphan stipend and signed the forms that kept him in a room with cracked windows? On his 5th birthday, Kurama told him about his parents. She chose the mindscape because truth deserved walls that could withstand it. The sewer had changed over the years. Naruto had begun repairing it in dreams without realizing, turning broken walkways into stone paths, hanging paper lanterns along the pipes. Kurama still remained behind the gate, but she no longer pressed herself against the bars in rage. She sat with her tails folded around her, enormous and still. Your father was Minato Namikaze, she said, the 4th Hokage. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, my previous jailer. Naruto's hands went cold. He knew the 4th's face. Everyone did. The village prayed beneath it, and cursed the boy who carried his legacy in the same breath. She told him about the masked man who tore her from Kushina, about chains, childbirth, blood, and a seal made in desperation. She told him Minato had split her chakra and placed half in his newborn son, hoping the village would see Naruto as a hero. She told him the 3rd Hokage had promised protection and delivered secrecy so poorly kept it became a weapon. Did they love me? Kurama's ears lowered. For a creature made from hatred and chakra, she answered that question carefully. Enough to die believing others would honor it. He looked up at the seal on the gate. Did you kill them? Kurama's tail stirred, water rippling outward. My claws did. My will was not fully my own. That does not make the dead rise. For a long time, Naruto said nothing. He pressed his palms to his knees and breathed the way she had taught him. In through the nose. Hold. Out through the mouth. Shape the feeling before it shapes you. Then he asked, what do I do with that? Kurama's gaze sharpened. It was the question that made him hers. You live, she said. You learn. You do not hand your heart to a village because it carved your father's face into a mountain. You judge people by what they do when they think no one important is watching. The next morning, Naruto walked through Konoha with new eyes. The village had always been loud. Vendors shouting, shinobi leaping across rooftops, children chasing one another beneath strings of laundry. It looked warm from far away. Up close, Naruto saw the seams. He saw civilians smile at uniformed ninja and bare their teeth when he passed. He saw masked Anbu on distant rooftops shift whenever he changed direction. He saw the Hokage Tower rising over everything, its windows bright even at dawn. He stopped wanting their approval that day. Wanting had been a bruise people pressed whenever they needed him to behave. Kurama did not tell him to hate every person in Konoha. She taught him something harder: to separate a crowd from individuals, institutions from faces, kindness from convenience. Iruka Umino, his academy instructor years later, was not cruel. He was impatient, grieving, sometimes unfair, and often ashamed after snapping at Naruto. That mattered. It did not make him a father. Hiruzen Sarutobi visited once every few months with a pipe in his mouth and sorrow in his eyes. He brought money, asked vague questions, and left before the room could demand answers. Naruto learned to bow politely. Kurama taught him the posture: respectful enough to avoid punishment, distant enough to avoid gratitude. The academy became a theater. Naruto could have been first in taijutsu by 8 if he wanted. Kurama's lessons were brutal and precise. She could not leave the apartment, but she could flood his muscles with warning heat when his balance shifted poorly. She could create shadow opponents in the mindscape and make him fight until his dream body collapsed. She knew battle in a way human teachers sanitized for children: feet before fists, eyes before feet, terrain before pride. Yet in class, Naruto missed just enough throws to seem stubborn rather than gifted. He made mistakes on written tests that a lonely child might make if no one helped him study. He passed. He did not shine. Middle, Kurama reminded him whenever frustration tightened his jaw. The middle survives inspection. Danzo's name entered their lessons when Naruto was 9. Kurama had sensed root before she knew its name. Shinobi who moved like erased people. Chakra signatures muffled until only intent remained. They watched the apartment more often after Naruto's chakra control improved. One stood beneath a street lamp for 3 nights in the rain, never shifting weight from one foot to another. Kurama's avatar crouched beside Naruto at the window. Her eyes reflected red against the glass. That one belongs to the darkness under the Hokage's chair. Naruto memorized the man's height, posture, and mask shape. The next day at school, he scored poorly on a chakra exercise he had mastered 2 years before. The Watcher disappeared by evening. The Cage of Leaves was not made from bars. It was made from assumptions. The village believed Naruto loud, stupid, desperate, and easy to steer. Kurama made sure those assumptions remained useful. He laughed sometimes, because a child who never laughed drew concern. He stumbled sometimes, because a weapon that looked sharp too early invited a hand on the hilt. But the laughter became his, not theirs. He found joy in small rebellions. A clean apartment, a hidden stack of books, the first storage seal he inked correctly onto the underside of his table. At 12, he failed the graduation exam on purpose. He performed a weak clone, watched Mizuki's smile sharpen, and waited. The trap unfolded almost exactly as Kurama predicted. Mizuki found him after sunset with false sympathy and the scent of ambition thick around him. He told Naruto about a scroll, about a special test, about a chance to prove everyone wrong. Naruto widened his eyes at the right places and let himself be led toward treason. The scroll of seals was heavier than expected. He carried it into the forest, opened it beneath a cedar tree, and began reading for real. Shadow clone technique. Mass replication with physical chakra constructs. Dangerous for normal reserves. Ideal for someone with a monster in his stomach, Kurama noted dryly. By the time Iruka arrived, bleeding and frantic, Naruto had learned enough. Mizuki's attack came from above. Naruto moved before the giant shuriken left the traitor's hand. Not fast enough to reveal everything. Fast enough to make Iruka's intervention possible. Metal slammed into the teacher's back. Iruka shielded him, breath ragged. and Naruto felt the old script of the village trying to close around him. Lonely boy saved by the first adult to acknowledge him. He did not reject the kindness. He simply measured it honestly. Mizuki laughed and spat the secret everyone already knew. Monster. Demon Fox. The thing that killed the fourth. Naruto lowered his gaze to the scroll. The old wound did not open the way Mizuki wanted. Kurama was awake inside him, a steady heat beneath his ribs. He thinks information is power, she murmured. Show him application. Naruto formed the cross seal. The forest filled with smoke. Hundreds of Narutos stood among the trees, each solid, each carrying a portion of his anger, refined into intent. Mizuki's laughter died. The beating was not elegant. Naruto was 12, and restraint under adrenaline remained difficult. Still, he directed the clones in waves, rather than a mob. Some pinned Mizuki's arms, some struck knees, wrists, ribs. When Mizuki tried to bite through his own tongue to trigger a poison capsule, a clone jammed a strip of cloth between his teeth. Kurama approved of that. Iruka watched with stunned eyes as Naruto bound the traitor and sealed the scroll shut. You knew? Iruka asked hoarsely later, when dawn touched the trees. Naruto looked at the blood, soaking the man's vest. I knew enough. Iruka gave him a headband with trembling hands. There were tears on his face. Naruto accepted it. And for Iruka's sake, he smiled. The man had chosen to protect him. Choice mattered. It did not erase years, but it marked a place from which something cleaner might grow. Team 7 formed 1 week later. Sasuke Uchiha sat by the window, with his chin resting on folded hands. Silence wrapped around him like armor. Sakura Haruno entered with too much energy and too many opinions shaped by classmates, rather than experience. Naruto took the remaining seat and watched the room through reflections in the glass. Sakura expected him to perform. The role she knew. Loud nuisance, easy target, boy who chased her attention because the academy had decided he should. When Naruto greeted her politely and returned to sharpening a pencil with a small utility blade, she faltered. Her irritation needed him to feed it. He did not. Sasuke noticed. Their first true exchange came during Kakashi's bell test. The Jonin arrived late, offered a cheerful excuse that insulted everyone's intelligence, and explained the rules with visible boredom. 2 bells, 3 students, 1 failure. Naruto felt Kurama stir. Hatake Sakumo's son, she said. Minato's student. Another ghost, pretending duty as a substitute for courage. Kakashi disappeared the instant the test began. Sakura hid in bushes with textbook precision. Sasuke stalked for an opening. Naruto stepped into the field and studied the ground. Kakashi expected impulsiveness. Naruto gave him patience. He placed 3 kunai, badly enough to be seen, then used the disturbance to hide 2 chakra threads in the grass. He did not expect to catch Kakashi. He expected to learn how Kakashi avoided being caught. When the Jonin appeared behind him with an orange book in hand and triggered a flash tag angled toward the book rather than the eyes, Kakashi shifted the book away on instinct. Sasuke's fireball tore across the clearing a heartbeat later. Kakashi replaced himself with a log, but the corner of the book caught fire. Sasuke emerged from cover, breathing hard. For a moment, his gaze met Naruto's, and something like reluctant interest passed between them. Sakura, startled by the sudden escalation, broke hiding too early and nearly got caught in a genjutsu. Naruto dispelled it by striking a pressure point in her wrist with 2 fingers as he passed. They still lost. Kakashi was an elite Jonin with years of battlefield experience, and they were children with promising instincts. Yet, when he tied Naruto to the post and lectured them about teamwork, his visible eye lingered on the burn mark on his book. At lunch, Sasuke offered Naruto rice, with a look that dared him to make it sentimental. Sakura shared hers too, cheeks flushed with embarrassment after realizing the test's true purpose. Kakashi passed them because they chose cooperation over obedience. Naruto accepted the result, while noting the hypocrisy. A system that punished children for following stated rules and rewarded them for guessing hidden ones was not teaching teamwork. It was teaching survival, inside authorities' whims. Wave Country sharpened them. Tazuna lied about the mission rank, and Kakashi allowed the team to continue after the Demon Brothers attacked. Naruto argued against it, not from fear, but from arithmetic. Underpaid risk encouraged clients to lie again. Kakashi listened more carefully than Naruto expected, then admitted the village had already placed them in a poor position by accepting the false contract. They continued because abandoning Tazuna would leave civilians to Gato's men, and because retreat through hostile territory carried its own danger. Kurama disliked Kakashi slightly less after that. Slightly. Zabuza's first attack near the lake nearly killed them. Mist swallowed the road. Killing intent pressed against Naruto's skin until his fingers numbed. Sasuke froze for 3 seconds. Sakura gripped a kunai in front of Tazuna. Kakashi's forehead protector rose to reveal the Sharingan. Naruto did not outfight Zabuza. He survived the opening by listening to Kurama count breaths. When Kakashi was trapped in the water prison, panic threatened to scatter the team. Naruto forced himself to speak slowly. He told Sasuke the prison required contact. He told Sakura to guard the client because Zabuza's clone wanted exactly the chaos that would pull her away. Then he and Sasuke attacked. The plan from canon would have been clever enough. This Naruto made it crueler. He used a transformed clone as a demon wind shuriken, but added a seal tag inside the fold of metal. A crude disruption script meant to spit chakra unevenly on impact. Zabuza dodged the obvious throw and caught the second. The seal burst against his palm, not strong enough to injure, strong enough to make his fingers spasm. Kakashi's shoulder slipped free of the water. 1 second became victory. Haku found Naruto days later in the forest, while he practiced leaf concentration with 1 foot on a branch and a storage seal stuck to his sleeve. The masked hunter was gentle, beautiful, and sad in a way Naruto recognized. They spoke of precious people, but Naruto did not romanticize the phrase. Kurama had taught him that devotion could be a blade pointed inward. You serve him because he gave you purpose, Naruto said, watching Haku gather herbs. That does not mean the purpose is kind to you. Haku's hands paused. During the battle on the bridge, those words returned. The ice mirrors trapped Sasuke and Naruto in a glittering cage. Senbone came from every direction, precise enough to disable, merciful enough to reveal hesitation. Sasuke's Sharingan awakened under pressure, and he threw himself between Naruto and a cluster of needles meant to drop him. Blood struck the ice. Naruto's chakra surged. Kurama rose like a red tide, ready to answer harm with annihilation. Naruto caught the feeling in both hands and shaped it. Not yet, he told her inside. The first cloak that formed around him was thin, controlled, one tail flickering like flame. Haku faltered, expecting rage and receiving focus. Naruto used the chakra not to smash the mirrors, but to warm the air unevenly, fogging the ice from within. While clones struck rhythmically at stress points, Sasuke identified with his new eyes. Haku adjusted, mirrors shifting, Senbon driving Naruto back. The fight became a contest of endurance and mercy. Haku could have aimed for throats. Naruto could have let Kurama burn the bridge white. Neither did. The turning point came when Naruto allowed a Senbon to pierce his shoulder so a clone could mark Haku's wrist with a tracking seal. The next time Haku moved between mirrors, Naruto followed the chakra thread and struck the true body with a palm to the sternum. Haku crashed onto the wet boards, mask cracking. Kakashi's Chidori sang at the far end of the bridge. Haku saw it before anyone else and moved. This time, Naruto's clone caught his ankle. The Chidori struck Zabuza's side rather than Haku's heart. The missing nin lived long enough to hear the truth from the boy he had used and the child who had named the use. Gato arrived with hired thugs, smearing over the ruined bridge, and Naruto watched Zabuza choose his final act with full knowledge of what it cost. The demon of the mist died in the rain with Haku's hand in his, not redeemed by tears, but made human by one decision at the end. Wave built its bridge, Team 7 returned quieter than they had left. The Chunin exams began under a sky too bright for the amount of blood they promised. Naruto disliked the first test immediately. Written questions designed to be impossible for Genin were not a measure of knowledge, but of information gathering under surveillance. He performed adequately, copying one answer through a reflection in another candidate's forehead protector, and deriving two others from principles Kurama had drilled into him. Sakura excelled honestly. Sasuke cheated elegantly. When Abiki revealed the true purpose and threatened lifetime consequences, Naruto recognized the shape of institutional fear again. He stayed because leaving would not protect his team. The forest of death smelled of wet bark, old blood, and predators who understood the exam better than the children did. Team 7 moved cautiously after securing a scroll from an overconfident rain trio. Naruto insisted on rotating rest in the roots of a massive tree rather than lighting a fire. Sasuke challenged the delay, restless for progress, but accepted the logic after Naruto pointed out the unnatural quiet to the east. The quiet came for them at noon. The grass ninja found them near a ravine. At first, the attacker moved like a talented genin. Then the skin of the disguise stretched wrong, and eyes yellow as old venom fixed on Sasuke. Kurama's chakra went still inside Naruto. That frightened him more than rage. Orochimaru, she said. The name carried weight. Sanin, Konoha traitor, experimenter, a man whose crimes filled gaps in records that even academy libraries tried to hide. Orochimaru played with them. That was the first horror. He could have killed all three in seconds, but he tested their reactions instead, stretching fear until it became data. Sasuke's hands shook. Sakura, pale and rigid, kept herself between the attacker and their supplies, because training had given her a task to cling to. Naruto sent clones through the trees, not expecting damage, using each dispelled memory to map speed, reach, and habits. Orochimaru noticed after the sixth clone. His smile widened. Interesting. He struck Sasuke first in earnest, driving him through branches and into the mud. Naruto intercepted the follow-up with a chakra-enhanced shoulder, felt his ribs bend, and rolled before the snake hidden in Orochimaru's sleeve closed on his throat. Sakura threw a volley of kunai, wired with explosive tags. Orochimaru shed skin and emerged, laughing, behind her. Sasuke's fireball forced him back before he could touch her. The fight tightened. Naruto could not beat him as Naruto. He knew that with the clarity Kurama had beaten into him over years, Orochimaru's experience dwarfed theirs. His body flowed around attacks with boneless precision. Every exchange taught him more about them than it cost him. Worse, his attention kept returning to Sasuke's neck. He wants to mark the Uchiha, Kurama said. Her voice had changed. It was no longer the voice of a tutor. It was the growl of something ancient, scenting a hand reaching into its den. Naruto wiped blood from his mouth. Can we stop him? Together. There was no drama in the decision. Kurama did not seize him. Naruto opened the door he had learned to open, deeper than ever before. His chakra met hers at the seal, and the world turned red at the edges. The avatar could not manifest fully in the forest, but Kurama could wear him. Naruto's body straightened. Whisker marks darkened. His eyes sharpened into crimson slits, and a cloak of chakra formed close to his skin, denser than the one in Wave, controlled through years of practice rather than greed. The air grew heavy enough for leaves to tremble. Orochimaru stopped smiling with his mouth. His eyes smiled harder. "Kyubi," he whispered. Kurama spoke through Naruto's throat, voice layered and low. "You smell like laboratories and stolen skin." He attacked to test her. The first exchange shattered 3 trees. Orochimaru's neck extended at an impossible angle, jaws opening for a blade hidden in his throat. Kurama ducked under the sword and drove Naruto's elbow into the stretched windpipe, then used a chakra tail to anchor against a trunk and reverse direction midair. Orochimaru's body folded around the blow, absorbing impact in a way that would have broken a normal spine. His fingers brushed Naruto's stomach, searching for the seal. Kurama punished the reach. A red claw tore through his forearm, not severing it, but disrupting the chakra pathways beneath the skin. Orochimaru hissed and retreated into the canopy. Sasuke watched from the mud, Sharingan spinning, pride and terror warring across his face. Sakura crawled to his side and pressed a bandage against his bleeding shoulder with shaking hands. Orochimaru summoned snakes. They came in a living wave, scales grinding over roots, mouths open. Kurama did not waste strength, burning all of them. She used Naruto's clones as bait, each bursting into smoke and leaving behind tags that flashed with storage seals reversed into expulsion. Rocks, broken branches, and kunai erupted from marked points under the snakes, breaking their formation. Then she moved through the gaps. Orochimaru adapted. Wind blades cut across the clearing, forcing Kurama to shield Naruto's human tendons from damage. A snake burst from beneath the ground and locked around his legs. Orochimaru appeared above Sasuke, neck distending, fangs aimed for the curse-marked bite. She let the snake crush Naruto's ankle for half a second longer than safety allowed, and used the pain to sharpen his focus. A chakra arm shot across the clearing, grabbed Sasuke by the back of his collar, and yanked him away as Orochimaru's teeth snapped shut on empty air. Naruto's ankle cracked. Kurama drove a pulse of healing chakra through it, and paid for the haste with a flare that every sensor in the forest likely felt. Orochimaru landed lightly, tongue tracing his lips. A protective beast. How charming. Kurama advanced. Each step sank into mud. A mother, she said, and the word came out with such vicious certainty that Naruto felt it echo through his bones. And you do not touch my pack. The next clash was uglier. Kurama feinted weakness in the injured ankle. Orochimaru took the bait, sliding low with killing intent, hidden beneath curiosity. Naruto's body pivoted at the last instant. Two tails pinned Orochimaru's wrists, while a third slammed him through the ground into a buried root network. Kurama layered a sealing script through Naruto's palm, crude and hot, pressing it against Orochimaru's sternum. It was not strong enough to bind a Sanin for long. It was strong enough to make his stolen body reject itself for several breaths. Orochimaru convulsed. Skin split along his cheek. Something pale writhed beneath. Kurama leaned close. Remember the feeling. He escaped by vomiting himself from his own mouth. A new body, slick with fluids and fury. Yet he did not press the attack. The equation had changed. Marking Sasuke here would cost more than he wished to pay. And Orochimaru was, beneath all his madness, a survivor. He melted backward into the trees. Grow stronger, Sasuke-kun, he called, voice rougher now. All cages open eventually. Kurama bared Naruto's teeth. Some things waiting outside cages have claws. When the Sanin vanished, Naruto collapsed to one knee. Control returned to him in stages. Breath, pain, mud under his nails. Sakura whispering his name as if it might break. Sasuke stared at him with a new hunger. Not envy alone, but recognition. A hidden power, a hidden wound, a choice to conceal both. Naruto met his gaze. He wanted you. I know, Sasuke said. He'll try again. That was all. It was enough to change the path beneath them. The rest of the exam carried the taste of that encounter. Team 7 reached the tower, passed the preliminaries, and entered the month before the finals with fractures showing. Sakura asked Tsunade's name before Tsunade had even returned to the village, forcing Kakashi to admit that medical training required more than academy discipline. Sasuke demanded strength from Kakashi with a cold urgency. Naruto understood. Naruto trained under Kurama in sealed rooms and empty training grounds at night, refining what the forest had exposed. He needed more than power. He needed stamina under shared control, faster seals, and the ability to protect allies while fighting enemies far above his rank. Jiraiya arrived during that month like a storm wearing sandals. He found Naruto near a river, working through chakra rotation exercises. Tall, white-haired, loud, carrying the title of Godfather like a coin he had forgotten in an old pocket. Kurama's reaction nearly cracked the stone under Naruto's feet. The meeting was brief. Jiraiya offered training. Naruto asked where he had been when rent notices piled up on a 5-year-old's table. Jiraiya's face changed, the performance slipping. He spoke of networks, threats, grief, duty. Naruto listened. Some of it was true. None of it was enough. "You can teach me a technique if it helps keep Akatsuki away," Naruto said, at last. "You don't get to decide what you are to me." Jiraiya accepted the boundary with visible pain. That, too, mattered. He taught summoning basics over 3 days and did not push for more. The finals arrived with banners, nobles, and the polished cruelty of public entertainment. Naruto faced Neji Hyuga under thousands of eyes. The prodigy spoke of fate as though pain became wisdom when arranged into a doctrine. Naruto listened longer than the crowd expected. Then he dismantled him. He did not win by shouting. He won by forcing Neji to overcommit. Shadow clones pressured the Byakugan's field of vision, not as a swarm, but in rotating blind angle tests. Neji's Kaiten shredded the first wave. Naruto had expected that. The second wave carried dust and flash tags. Neji adapted, striking Tenketsu with terrifying precision, closing Naruto's chakra points one by one. Pain crawled through Naruto's arms. Kurama offered chakra. Naruto refused the first surge because accepting too early would teach Neji nothing and reveal too much. When Neji drove him into the ground and declared the match decided, Naruto used the earth beneath him. A clone had burrowed poorly, loudly, exactly where Neji's Byakugan would dismiss it as desperation. The real trap lay in the seal tag pressed to Naruto's own sleeve, storing the impact from 3 earlier strikes as unstable kinetic force. Crude, dangerous, and likely to bruise him black. He released it into the ground. The arena floor buckled. Neji's stance broke for the length of a breath. Naruto emerged from the dust and placed a kunai at his throat. "Your clan made a cage and taught you to call it the sky," Naruto said quietly, so only Neji and the nearest proctor heard. "Break the vocabulary first." Neji did not answer. His eyes shook with anger, humiliation, and something more painful than either. Then the invasion began. Feathers fell over the stadium in a genjutsu disguised as sleep. Naruto broke it by spiking his chakra. Then slapped Sakura awake and kicked Sasuke's foot hard enough to make him snarl through the illusion. Sand Shinobi moved. Sound Shinobi revealed hidden weapons. Explosions tore through the stands. Above it all, the third Hokage faced Orochimaru on a rooftop barrier raised by the Sound Four. Kakashi ordered them after Gaara. Sasuke had already gone, chasing the half-transformed Sand Jinchuriki with a look Naruto knew too well. Naruto followed because Gaara's chakra screamed like a trapped animal, and because Kurama had gone silent in a way that meant she was listening to something no human could hear. They caught up in the forest beyond the village. Gaara was breaking. Sand crawled over half his body, one eye swollen with Shukaku's madness, his voice splitting between boy and beast. Sasuke attacked first and paid for it. Chidori pierced sand armor, drew blood, and triggered something worse. Gaara howled. Trees cracked under the pressure of rising chakra. Naruto landed between them, with Sakura behind him, and Sasuke struggling to stand at his left. The old path would have demanded a speech about loneliness. Naruto had no interest in turning suffering into a contest. Gaara did not need a mirror. He needed an anchor. Kurama stepped forward, inside the seal. For the first time, Naruto felt her reach beyond him toward another Biju. It was not speech as humans understood it. It was pressure, memory, scent, and chakra older than villages. Shukaku answered with a shriek of sand and sleepless rage. The forest bent under it. "Hold the body," Kurama told Naruto. Gaara's full transformation began. Sand rose into a monstrous tanuki shape, huge and unstable, with Gaara's sleeping form embedded atop its head. Naruto summoned Gamabunta with more chakra than finesse, earning a furious complaint from the Toad boss and a wave of displaced earth. He did not have time to negotiate properly. He explained the minimum. Keep Shukaku's body occupied, do not kill the boy, and avoid the sand bullets. The battle became a struggle of timing. Gamabunta's blade met claws of compressed sand. Shukaku fired air bullets that tore trenches through the forest. Naruto used clones to redirect smaller attacks, losing dozens at a time. Each dispelled memory, adding to the map of Shukaku's rhythm. Sasuke, injured and furious at being unable to dominate the fight, used fire techniques to glass patches of sand when Naruto called positions. Sakura protected Tazuna once. Now she protected Sasuke's blind side with wire traps and explosive tags placed by shaking hands that steadied as the fight demanded more. Kurama pushed into Shukaku's mind. Naruto saw fragments through her. Darkness under Akaze Kage's orders, a mother's name twisted into a weapon, years of insomnia, grinding a child into a vessel for fear. Shukaku snapped and clawed, hurling accusations in sensations rather than words. Kurama did not soothe him gently. She pinned his attention with the force of eldest anger. "Your jailers are not this child," she sent. "Stop chewing through him to bite their ghosts." Shukaku answered with a blast that nearly took Gamabunta's head off. Naruto used the opening to launch himself upward, clones forming a chain beneath him. Sand spears shredded half of them. A gust caught him wrong and spun him into a tree hard enough to crack bark. Kurama flooded his lungs before panic could steal breath. He pushed off, reached Gaara, and slammed his forehead into the boys. Contact mattered. Naruto dragged Gaara into a shared inner space for a heartbeat. Not fully, not safely, but enough. Kurama forced a channel open between seals and beast, using Naruto as bridge and shield. Gaara saw her then, crimson-haired, fox-eared, standing between him and the vast shape of the Ninetales. He saw Naruto beside her, not commanding her, not being devoured by her, standing with her. Control was possible. Not easy, not clean, not granted by love alone. Possible. Gaara woke with a scream that tore Shukaku's form apart. Sand collapsed like a dying wave. Naruto fell through branches and struck the ground shoulder first. For several seconds, the forest held only groans, settling dust, and distant explosions from Konoha. Gaara lay in a crater, thin and trembling. His eyes found Naruto. How? Naruto pushed himself upright. His head rang. Someone stayed. Gaara looked at Kurama's chakra flickering around him, then at his own hands. The answer hurt him. It also entered him. By the time they returned to the village, the invasion had failed, and the third Hokage was dead. Konoha mourned, with white flowers, black clothes, and speeches polished by people who had survived behind walls, while others bled. Naruto stood at the edge of the funeral crowd in a dark jacket. Kurama had made him buy 2 sizes too large so he could grow into it. Rain dotted the memorial stone. Konohamaru sobbed near the front. Iruka's shoulders shook. Kakashi stood very still, as if movement might loosen something he had spent years binding. Naruto watched Hiruzen's portrait through the rain. The old man had been kind in private and cowardly in office. He had given Naruto money and left him vulnerable. He had protected the village's image more carefully than Minato's son. He had allowed Danzo to remain a shadow with teeth. He had smiled like a grandfather, because it was easier than ruling like a guardian. Naruto bowed his head. Kurama stood unseen at his side, avatar folded into a shimmer only he could sense. Her hand hovered near his shoulder, and then settled there, warm through cloth. "Do you grieve?" she asked. Naruto considered the question. Around him the village wept for a leader. He thought of a pipe tapping ash into a saucer, of envelopes placed on a table, of tired eyes that always left too soon. He thought of Minato and Kushina, trusting a promise that had rotted in bureaucracy and fear. "I grieve what he could have done," Naruto answered. Kurama's fingers tightened once. She did not praise him. She had never liked easy praise. In the weeks after the funeral, Konoha tried to rearrange itself around absence. Council meetings stretched late into the night. Anbu patrols doubled. Rumors moved faster than repairs. Some called Naruto a hero for stopping Gaara. Others had felt the flare in the forest of death and whispered that the demon was learning to wear a boy's skin. Danzo's watchers returned. Naruto saw one reflected in a tea shop window and kept walking. He had survived childhood by appearing smaller than he was. That strategy still had value, but the forest had changed the board. Orochimaru knew, Gaara knew. Sasuke had seen enough to begin asking questions inside himself he would not ask aloud. Kakashi watched Naruto now, with guilt sharpened by suspicion. Jiraiya lingered at the village edge, wanting to help and not knowing how to cross the distance he had built. In their apartment, Kurama repaired a tear in Naruto's sleeve with clumsy fingers formed from chakra. She hated sewing. She did it anyway, because Naruto's hands were bandaged from training. The cage is still here, Naruto said, looking out at the village lights. Kurama tied the thread too tightly and scowled at the knot. Cages remain until broken or abandoned. He touched the hitayate on the table. The metal reflected his face in a warped strip. Whisker marks, blue eyes, a child's jaw beginning to sharpen toward adolescence. Not yet. No, Kurama agreed. Her tails flickered behind her, filling the small apartment with red gold light. Not yet. Beyond the window, leaves moved in the evening wind. Thousands of them whispering over rooftops, over graves, over foundations cracked by invasion and patched by pride. Naruto listened to them and felt the village listening back. For 12 years, Konoha had believed it knew the shape of the boy it feared. Now the shape had shifted. Somewhere beyond the walls, Orochimaru nursed a wound and thought of the Uchiha. Somewhere in the sand, Gaara lay awake and heard silence where madness had once scratched. Somewhere beneath the village, Danzo counted losses, assets, and opportunities. Naruto blew out the lamp. In the dark, Kurama's hand found his shoulder again, solid as any mother's. The cage of leaves had not opened, but the kit inside had learned the lock.